Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a little more serious of a topic, but one that I'm super passionate about and passionate about helping people on and about. And before I just dive in, I want to preface this by saying I was having a conversation with someone the other day and they were asking me, what are your life goals? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with YouTube? And most importantly, they were asking, what do you want to do with YouTube? Since it's kind of my new hobby. And I said, I started it because I've been watching YouTube for years, and many people have helped me go through all kinds of things because they've shared their personal stories about trauma or sickness or a procedure they had to have done, or anxiety, which is exactly what I'm going to talk about today. So without further ado, I want to help people out there. If this can even help you a little bit not feel alone, then this is worth it to me. And I already know it's worth it to me to hopefully reach at least one person to help them out. So I've got my notes once again handy to make sure that I stay on point and don't get too distracted. I'm going to try to make this kind of, an intro video, and maybe I'll do a more in-depth one later on as we go along. So I'm going to start with kind of the time frame here of when I first started to experience debilitating anxiety. So a little background, I guess I'll start with kind of what really I think caused this to come into motion. I'd been a performer since I was 6, performing for recitals and concerts, no problem. And I started to get a performance anxiety, I think, as I got into my undergraduate college experience, getting my bachelor's degree. And I remember just starting to feel these doubts come in my mind I'd never had before. I used to be so confident, and then I started having these self-doubts of my playing, my ability, and it just kind of started to fester from there. So just some natural anxiety, I would say I've always had. So I'd been dealing with that, but then fast forward to 2013, my dad passed away in an accident, and I'll never forget that day. It changed my life forever. All I can describe that as is just utter shock, and it took me years to even accept that he was gone, because it was one of those situations where he was just taken from us in an hour, it seems like, and then it was over. And so that was 7 years ago, and I would say that's really what kind of broke something within me that got all this anxiety, kind of unleashed it. I don't know why. I tend to smile or laugh to get through life. That's my defense mechanism. So I think that's why I'm smiling, thinking about my anxiety being unleashed. Anyways, so I didn't feel it right at first. I actually went right back to school. I was one of those grieving people who I tried to pretend it didn't happen. I was in denial. I was in shock. And I'd been living long distance away from him anyway, and so I just kept in my mind slowly starting, I would feel it, and then I would just try to numb it with getting distracted or going out with friends, or school was a great distraction because it's very busy. So I finished my graduate degree in California, and upon graduation, that exact summer actually, I started to, the very end of that school year actually, I experienced my very first panic attack. I didn't know what it was. I just all of a sudden, while performing, felt a huge hot flash come over me. I felt my mouth go dry. I felt some dizziness and my heart just beating out of my chest. And I was just like, oh my gosh, did I drink too much coffee? And I stayed and I played the performance and it passed. Afterwards, I was just terrified at what had happened. So then I just kind of went off coffee. I didn't think it was anxiety at that point. Then, again, I'm getting my first apartment in LA, all this, and I have another panic attack when I actually started to almost bring upon myself fainting spells. I would be out in public and all of a sudden get really nervous and feel like I had to sit down or I'd fall or black out. And I was eating enough. There was really no explanation, but again, I kept trying to be like, oh, maybe I too high a blood sugar or didn't eat enough, or I just kept on saying it was something medical. And then this started to happen more and more in times where the average person wouldn't experience this. And so I was just like, what's going on? And just to kind of get back to, so these were my first big experiences with it. I had another episode during a performance, and you can see how this unfortunately kind of took me away from performing because I started to experience panic attacks while playing. And it was so sad because I never worried about performing before in an orchestra. And then in that year, this started happening, I started to pull away and be like, okay, I can't do it. So anyway, I want to talk about some of my other symptoms. Basically, this went on, I would say, for 5 to 6 years. There are other things that played into it. Obviously, I was grieving and I was trying to stuff it down and not deal with my dad being gone, but also I was in a bad relationship, one that both of us were not happy, but we were trying to work out. And so I think I was stressed from that. I was stressed about where I was going in life, what was my path. I always kind of had those feelings, that underlying current of what is my why, what am I doing? And I also experienced depression, and that absolutely goes hand in hand with anxiety. And that was just the aftermath of losing my dad, and also just being in a relationship that wasn't good for me, and staying in this situation that I think I knew I had to get out of. So some other symptoms I experienced, I used to get really red. I'm a pale person. I would just flush and just almost get hives out of nowhere in social situations. And that started to make me want to retreat and not go out. I felt like I was going to pass out randomly. Like I'd be sitting in a restaurant having a good time, and then all of a sudden have something, a wave come over me. Again, I was eating, I was fine. It was unfortunate because it made me really scared. It made me all those things, as you can imagine. And so I finally was like, enough's enough. I'm going to a therapist. I'm going to dive into what's going on here. And that's kind of what I want to encourage those of you listening who are maybe feeling panic attacks and stuff now, especially with COVID. Like, talking to someone is huge because you're hearing yourself almost say it out loud, and then you can deal with it. So I saw a therapist at grad school, I saw a therapist post-grad school, and then I recently saw one this year. So I think it's something I'm always going to be going to and checking in with. And I mean, in LA, I used to joke, a therapist is like an accessory. So there is no shame at all in going to therapy. In fact, I wouldn't even wait till things get bad or super bad to go. I would go to just have, do maintenance. So that's where I ended up, was in therapy, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about facing my fear, and then that became, fast forward so that this doesn't run too long, fast forward to this year, 2020, I had been working on my anxiety for 6 months. And the way that I was working on it was I still was feeling some panic attack feelings around my friends, my family, anywhere it would happen to me. I mean, even at my job. And but I just had to keep going. I did every day, wake up, I do it, wake up, you do it, wake up, you go, make yourself continue living. Because if I sat at home and called out sick or didn't go to this or that, then I wouldn't be as far as I am now. So you just have to push through those hard days and know that it's going to be okay, and that this phase you're in will end. This will not be your life forever. If there's anything I can tell anyone out there that I wish I had heard maybe from an anxiety video, is that yes, like I'm always going to deal with, I think, a handful of anxiety, but I have the power to kind of get into my mind, take control of my thoughts and my fear, and say, I'm in charge here. That's not the truth. And wake up to a new day, start again, fresh start. So that's kind of what I want to end it with, is kind of what are some things I did to get past it, because today I can happily say I feel really comfortable in my own skin, and there's a lot of reasons why. There were just a couple things I did, there were rituals I did, there's lots of things that are incorporated into me in my healing process, and I'm not done. I'm still in the midst of it, and I think anxiety is something I'm always, like I said, gonna have to maintain. So these are the things that, here it is, that I did to get past it. Number one, shout out to Start Today Journal and Rachel and David Hollis. I love them so much. They were a huge part of my healing journey, like huge. I've listened to them every day, their morning show every day, their podcast. They came out with these journals, and it's a daily journal where you write down just, 5 things every day that you're thankful for that bring you joy, and then 10 of your goals that you're going to achieve, and you write it down like you've already achieved it. I did this for 6 months straight, and it's been life-changing. So I recommend some kind of journaling. This is short, by the way. This is not, some people are worried about journaling. That takes too much time. They're not a writer. I'm not either. It literally, it takes about 5 minutes to fill out every day. And then this is my second one because I filled out the whole first one. So there's that journal ritual every morning. I'd make my cup of coffee, sit down before I even dive into Instagram emails, sit down, do that. And then I would walk my dog. I already did this, obviously, to take care of him, but we would go on a long walk first thing in the day, and it really helps to move your body, and that's something I got from Tone It Up, actually, so shout out to Tone It Up. They talk about moving your body first thing, and it really does help set your mental space up in a good way, a healthy way. Okay, and then now I'm really incorporating workouts. Like there is so much research behind getting your heart rate up and sweating that will release endorphins, all of that stuff, to really help you feel good. So the last point I have to say would be just, face your fear. You've got to face it at the end of the day. And if you don't face it, then you're always going to have that underlying current of anxiety, right? So get out there, do something that scares you just a little bit, just to get past it. And I know that you can beat it too. So, all right. Well, I will close on that note for today. I hope this was helpful. This was kind of an overview video, so I can get more in depth later on if people are interested. But again, I hope all of you are well. I hope you take some time for yourself. Be graceful with yourself, and please take care. All right. Bye, guys.